Welcome to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. Here we talk about all things franchising. What is it all about? Is it for you? How do you find the best one to own? And so much more. Now your host, Tim Parmeter.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of FranCoach, and your podcast host. Today, we have the third of a three-part segment on scaling a franchise. What is scaling a franchise? What are the different ways in which it can be done? And what does that mean to you as a franchise owner? To help us understand all of this, we are pleased to have a special guest joining us to help us take a deep dive into this topic. But before we do that, we have to let you know who we are first. FranCoach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals who are interested in owning a franchise. We are partnered with over 500 of the top franchisors in the country, spanning nearly 60 industries. Our goal is to help clients find the absolute best franchise for them to own. And our goal of the Franchising 101 podcast series is to help educate people on all aspects of franchise ownership. So that's a bit about us. Now let's talk about how you can grow your franchise. To help us with this topic today, we are very excited to have a special guest. Mr. John Dobelbower is the Director of Franchise Development for Grounds Guys. And Grounds Guys, if you don't know them, they are a full-service lawn care and landscaping franchise and one of the 17 U.S.-based franchises that are part of the home service giant Neighborly Brands. John, thanks for joining us today.
Perfect, Tim. I'm glad to be here. Absolutely.
Well, good. We're looking forward to picking your brain here, and this is again kind of part 3 of our series on scaling a franchise and how to do that. And we want to talk a little bit about this. But first, I always want to point out that not every franchise owner has the desire to grow and expand their franchise beyond one unit. And we want to make sure people know that is 100% okay. Some of the happiest franchise owners we've ever run across are single unit owners, and that's hitting your goals. That's perfect. But for many people, the desire and want to grow bigger is definitely there, and the long-term benefits of doing so are there, but rarely do people understand what that looks like. Our first 2 segments in this series, first we discussed how a non-retail-based franchise can grow, and then in part 2 we talked about how to scale a retail or a brick-and-mortar franchise. But today is the one that people don't think about very much, and that is becoming a multi-brand franchise owner. Sounds a little crazy, but this happens, and probably a lot more than people realize. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so it's actually one of the things that Neighborly was kind of built on, Tim. You kind of alluded to the fact that we have these 17 different service brands, but the reality is, in my mind, there's really kind of 3 ways to grow a franchise. One, you could do it sort of geographically, right? You could go and pick up more territory and kind of expand the footprint. Number 2, Tim, you could go through and open the same concept, but just in a different market, in a different city or whatever that looks like for you. But the third way that people don't think about is opening a different concept in the same market that they already have different customers. And so that's one thing that Neighborly has done really well. In fact, I'll tell you a story, Tim. Our current CEO, okay, his name is Mike Bidwell. He's actually well known as being the first franchisee within Neighborly to own multiple concepts. He owned a Rainbow International, which is our fire restoration brand. And he also owned a plumbing franchise called Mr. Rooter Plumber, and ended up being wildly successful, sold those businesses, and then moved corporately with us. So it's been in our DNA since the very beginning.
Awesome. No, that's cool. And obviously there's a couple of different ways to do this, right? And one of the reasons, and again, thank you for being on with us today, but one of the reasons we wanted to talk, because we know it's very common with Neighborly. And again, 17 different home service brands. I mean, some people, probably even myself, would be like, how do you get 17 different things within a home service? But there's really that many different kind of niches within it. Obviously there's some synergy when it's two different home service brands. If I trust you to come into my house to fix something, repair something, build something, fix my AC, I might also trust you with something else, right? So you get that kind of shared marketing. But some of the economies of scale from a marketing and staff and resource perspective comes into play a great deal with this as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I would think about it like this. You've got the buying power of 17 different brands, right? So, and I know specifically I'm talking about the home service space right now, Tim, but the reality is Neighborly has 4,500 different franchise owners across all those different brands, right? Well, that's a lot more powerful than going with 200 owners for one of the individual brands when you go and negotiate discounts and rebates and all that sort of stuff on behalf of all the franchisees with all the different vendors that are out in the space. And so, Neighborly, the way that it's really sort of made their niche is that we target the same customer. Okay. It's typically your more affluent residential type customer. And a good example would be like Grounds Guys, the brand that I represent. We're a full service landscaping brand, but our target customers are the exact same customers that you would get with the Mosquito Joe, right? We're still doing the services on the outside of their home. They're still the same client. They still don't want to be going out and doing these services on their own, or sometimes they can't do these services on their own, and they're still all essential services. So I think that there's definitely some correlation when you combine the industry experience itself. But to your point, Tim, it's not just that. I mean, a lot of people want to go through and diversify into completely different things. So whether it's a Grounds Guys landscaping brand to get that consistent cash flow and that recurring revenue, and you don't have the brick and mortar establishment, so you don't have the high rent cost and all of that. Maybe that's one aspect. And then on the completely opposite side of the spectrum, you want to go and start a Taco Bell, and you want to have the brick and mortar establishment, and you want to put the sign up and kind of if you put it, they will come, that sort of mentality. And the reality is you can do both in franchising. That's one of the very powerful things about franchising. Is once you learn the different systems that they have in place, right, from the franchisor's perspective, it's really pretty easy to scale.
And really I know it's cheesy when we say this sometimes, but the sky is the limit, right? And it's funny you mentioned the Taco Bell. We had some guys we worked with a couple years back, and people sometimes think that maybe want something bigger, but can't quite do it yet. These dudes started out of college, and they owned a carpet cleaning business, and they were everything. They were on the machine, cleaning the carpet, running the business, the sales, the marketing, all this stuff. And it kept growing, and then they're hiring people, and they were expanding. And then they started another business, and then next thing you know, they had their first literally Taco Bell, and at some point ended up with over 50 Taco Bells. That just started from, two college buddies running a carpet machine cleaner, right? And again, it really can continue to grow, whether that's there's synergy in something like with multiple Neighborly brands, or again, if they're the most random things possible, you're diversifying. It's no different than we do in our, in our investments. If it's in our 401k or whatever we're doing, we're trying to diversify. So when one's up, the other one's down. We're tapping into different markets. It's real to me. It's maybe the most exciting way people can grow their business. And then to me, one of the cool pieces of this too, just as you grow, always want to look at kind of what that exit strategy is, but the legacy aspect can really come into play with this as well. Getting family, getting kids involved with one or more of the businesses down the road as well. Is that something you guys see with Neighborly, or just even with your experience in franchising, that you see happen quite a bit in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's a reality. breaking into different brands, different concepts, all it does really, Tim, is it gives you different options in the future. So, you're speaking about exit strategies and exit planning. Well, let's say you built up one of these businesses where it was cash flowing and you were more of a passive type guy, and you're sort of relying on that passive income in retirement. And then you have on the opposite side of the spectrum, a more active brand, right? And you're getting ready to retire. You don't really want to deal with the active brand anymore. Here's the thing. You can go through and sell it and then get that positive cash flow. You can go through and pass that on to your kids. It gives you all of the different options that you have in play, where you can, you get the best of both worlds, really. Here's kind of the way I think about it, man. I'll use the granddaddy of all franchising, McDonald's. Okay, so really, Tim, the way it works is it's guys like me and you, they decide to go start a hamburger shop, but instead of branding under the name Tim's Burgers, they brand under the name McDonald's, and they use the systems, the coaching, the tools, the support, the buying power, all those different things to create a multi-million-dollar business, right? Here's my question though, Tim. When is the last time you walked into a McDonald's and you saw the owner standing behind the counter?
Probably maybe never.
Right. I mean,
college, because I remember the owner because he was one of our boosters on the basketball team, but I'd rather not tell you how many years ago that was that I was in college, right? But you're right, you don't. They're not there.
Yeah, and here's the thing, okay? It's all about the systems that you have in place. Business is business, okay? I don't care if it's a grounds guy's business. I don't care if it's a McDonald's business. At the end of the day, it's all about delivering exceptional customer service and doing it in a profitable way. And once you figure that out, right, with the help of a franchisor, with the help of the different systems that are in place, then you can go through and scale into other concepts. The best franchisees that we have, frankly, Tim, they'll tell you, it's the guys that just go through and follow the system. But here's the other thing I'll tell you, okay? The same guys that are wildly successful, they go through and follow the system. 2 or 3 years from now, Tim, they get bored. Why? Because they have the business running, right? It's right. Going, man. These guys are looking for the next challenge, the next opportunity. And you're exactly right. The sky is the limit. So what do? Okay, instead of going and just rinsing and repeating with the same concept, a lot of these guys say, I want a new challenge, I want a new concept, I want a new system, and I'm going to go through and fully embrace that for the next 2 or 3 years and get it on autopilot and move on. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. It's I think sometimes people think of getting in the real estate world and go, oh, I've got some rental properties or whatever. And it's getting that first one. And then, well, I've got the first one. Now I got to, kind of have an understanding. Well, let's get the second and the third. And it's hard to imagine, geez, I want to have a rental portfolio of 20 houses. That seems like a lot, but you just have to get the first one. And because you've not done it before. And so many of the folks that we work with, and I know you do too, are kind of first timers coming out of the corporate world. And that's the corporate world. It's like, it kind of beats you down, right? And all you think is what your worth is of your job title in the corporate world and your salary. And I don't care what your job title is in the corporate world, it's not better than the job title of owner. That's first. And then second, whatever that income is in the corporate world, it's so easy to make that up in the franchising world. Right. And you may get to that point. I always say that people have 2 numbers that you want to get to. How much money do I need and how much time do I want to work? And when you hit that, if you're good, keep going, stay right there. Right. There's nobody on the franchise side going, well, geez, Tim, we need 20% increase every year just so you can keep your job. This isn't the corporate world. This is your business. If you're happy, keep it. But unlike the corporate world, you can't say, hey, I want to increase 20% and double my revenue, or I can't keep going up the ladder in the corporate world. There's a ceiling to it. There's just absolutely no ceiling with this. And I know that sounds scary sometimes to people at the beginning, but we see it so many times where you get in there and you got it figured out, and then you, just like you said, what's next? Well, what's next is whatever the heck you want it to be, and then be able to build and grow from there. So, very cool, man.
Well, I was going to say, man, I think you're exactly right, Tim. Here's the reality. It's really about, how do you figure out if it's time to make a change? Whether let's say you're a current franchisee and you're thinking about making a change by adding a different brand or a new brand, right? Or maybe it's, you don't own any brand right now. It's kind of the guy you were talking about, and he's sitting in the corporate world. Here's the reality. It's really pretty simple, okay? If you were to lay out all of your dreams and goals, all of your needs in life, and all of your quality of life objectives, okay? Dreams and goals, needs, and quality of life objectives. And you ask yourself, if I continue operating right now the way I am for the next 3 years, like I've operated for the past 3 years, am I going to be on track to hit all of my needs, all of my dreams and goals, and all of my quality of life objectives? And if the answer is yes, then great, keep doing what you're doing. But what do you think most people's answer is, Tim?
It's going to be a big old fat heck no.
Exactly. So, but here's the thing. Okay, when you get to that point, you really only have two options in life, Tim. Either one, you're going to make a change, or two, you're going to essentially give up on your dreams and goals, right? What do you think most people do, Tim?
They give up.
Yeah. Did you know that? I think I was talking to a mentor. Don't quote me on the exact percentages, but I think he was saying that he read a study. It was 96% of people believe that they are going to retire financially independent by age 65. Okay. You know how many people actually do, Tim?
I'd probably reverse that percentage.
It's 5%.
Yeah.
5%. So, there's this big disconnect in my mind where people believe that they're going to get where they want to be, but they don't know the path, right? And 9 times out of 10, what's standing in their way is just false assumptions. False assumptions like, I can't make more money with the franchise than I make in my corporate role because I'm making, $300,000 in my corporate role. The reality is, the sky is the limit. You can build these businesses up substantially, Tim, as you well know.
Yep. Yeah. No, one, it's the, if you look at people in kind of that 1% income bracket, and not everybody wants to be there, that's okay. Right. But how many of the people in there are employees versus entrepreneurs, and it is incredibly skewed towards the entrepreneur at that side of the way, right? That's where the not just kind of the income, but I always go back to that exit strategy piece, right? Is you've got a business or businesses that down the road, when you're done, when you really are ready to retire, whether that's at 45 or 75, you've got something you can sell. All the money you've made along the way, it's like that corporate VP. Well, great, you were making $150,000, but when they're done with you or you're done with the job, you don't get to post that on, like, let me post that on Career Builder and see how much somebody will come buy my position for me, right? You can't do that. You can't say, hey, I'd love to pass this on to my kid. You can't do that either. It's, you've just walked away with what you made up to that point, and that's pretty much it.
Tim, here's the way I think about it. You talk about exit strategies. I mean, here's my thing. I'll use an analogy for you. What's the point of climbing any mountain, Tim?
Getting to the top.
Is it to get to the top, or is it to get to the top and back down safely? Okay, more people die on Everest on the way down than on the way up, right? But here's the thing, man. We are so in the mindset of, hey, I got to stay in this role. I've got to, check these boxes. I've got to get to retirement so that one day I can stand at the top of the retirement mountain and say, I've made it. I have $1 million, right? They don't think about what happens the day they make it, okay? The reality is you got to come back down the mountain. You got to come back down safely. And if you don't have a plan in place, whether that's sell the business, whether that's leave a legacy for your kids, whatever that means to you, I would just encourage your listeners to think about it more than anything, right? Because the reality is, I don't know one person throughout all of human history that has made it out of this thing alive, right? Everyone is going to die at some point. And so really it's how are you going to live your life in the interim, and what kind of decisions are you going to make to lead a successful family or successful life,
Yeah, absolutely. Are there anything when you're looking at potential franchise owners, are there any, I guess, traits, background, skill set, experiences that you think might lend itself more for somebody being a multi-brand franchise owner versus somebody that would just be a really good single unit operator?
Yeah. So, well, I think that's an excellent question. Here's the reality. I think people that are good single unit owners could be good multi-unit owners, could be good multi-concept owners. I think it kind of relies back on your goals and what you ultimately see for your life. All that being said, what I've seen very successful people do, especially coming from the corporate side, typically these guys have a large amount of sales experience. They can go out and be the face of an organization, right? And then they can be a people person. They can go and drive teams and do all those sorts of things. It's not necessarily about the individual industry. In my experience, Tim, it's not necessarily about the individual industry. It's not about the technical experience that are involved in, mowing grass or whatever the franchise concept is. It's more of a mindset of, hey, can I go out and be that client facing people person? Because if you can do that with the grounds guys, very likely you can do it with Mosquito Joe. Very likely you can do it with Taco Bell and everything else. Make sense?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, totally. And then I think that's, you just roll it into leadership. And because essentially as you're growing and expanding, you better be able to build a really good team that can represent what you want with the business. And you said it towards the beginning, like, the biggest reason why somebody's going to be a successful franchise owner has nothing to do with anything that's on their resume. It's, can they follow a plan? Will they follow a plan? Because you already have it laid out as the franchise. Find the right match and then basically don't screw it up, right? So, which is sometimes people can get in their own way on that, but it's really that simple with all of this. So. John, cool stuff, man. I appreciate you talking to us and about this. And it's one of those things where I think it's for people thinking of franchising or even wondering if it's the right fit. I don't want talking about multi-brands and having, 5 of these and 3 of these and 4 of those to sound too daunting. Nobody is starting with 5 of these, 3 of these, 4 of these. They're starting with 1 and growing and building from there. But we want people to know you can grow it and build it to whatever the heck you want. And this is another way, and frankly, I think a pretty cool, exciting way to be able to do that long term. So thanks so much for coming on with us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I certainly appreciate it, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. I hope you have me back one day.
Awesome. Well, don't threaten me like that. We will definitely do it. So this has been awesome. And for all of our very loyal podcast listeners out there, we hope the Franchising 101 series continues to provide insight into the amazing possibilities that can be achieved as a franchise owner. Please be sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform to make sure you never miss another episode. You don't know when John's going to be back on. I don't want you to miss it. And if you'd like to learn more about becoming a franchise owner, whether that's single unit or your own 100 or something down the road, let's schedule a brief introductory call. Click the link in your podcast window or find us online at FranCoach.net. There is never any fee for our service, so we encourage you to take that first step today to help create your better tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to FranCoach's Franchising 101 podcast, where our ultimate goal is to help educate you on all things franchising so you can create your better tomorrow.